Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. And greetings to everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Greetings from Istanbul, Turkey. And it's a pleasure to be speaking to you from Istanbul as a part of Maqasid Institute, as a representative of Maqasid Institute Global, and I'm a deputy executive director of this institute. And okay, let me share the screen. So you got the screen, right? So I'll be talking about the Maqasid-based ethics for artificial intelligence, and generally for advanced technologies, I think. And so, just maybe as a brief introduction about myself. So my name is Ildus Rafikov. Originally, I'm from Russia. I was born and brought up during the Soviet Union times, and I left my country at the age of 21. And I went to Malaysia to study at the International Islamic University, and where I lived for over a quarter century. And I lived there as a student, and also as a business person. And today I'm residing in Istanbul, Turkey. And I'm currently the deputy executive director at Maqasid Institute, and I'm also teaching at the Institute of Knowledge Integration, and we teach in English and in Russian. We teach different Islamic studies, and I'll be speaking on behalf of this organization of Maqasid Institute. And which is a think tank, and we try to disseminate the information and knowledge of the Maqasid methodology that you heard about yesterday from Sheikh Professor Jasser Ouda. And just to briefly talk about my plan for today. So I'll talk about the Maqasid approach to ethics in artificial intelligence and generally for the technologies, for advanced technologies. So my point have already been covered by other speakers, like the ethical issues. I'm sure yesterday there were other speakers who talked about benefits and harms and risks of AI. So most of these things have been covered, I think. So I'll be just briefly mentioning some of these points. And I'll make my personal statement that we do actually need more or better AI. And I'll also talk briefly about the nature of advanced technologies and some of its characteristics and why should we care. Also, next on the list are the ethical issues in AI at user level and at the developer or programmer level. So these are some general points there, and because most of these points and issues I think have been already covered. So I'll just briefly touch upon these ethical issues. And then we'll move on to the main topic of my presentation, which is the Maqasid-based ethics. So how to understand it, what we mean by it, and what ethical guidelines we can derive from revelation. And lastly, we will present some ideas about the solution to existing ethical issues. And because there are these issues are going to continue be quite significant for a long time, and they'll be significant enough until the industry matures, so that when professional norms and standards are developed well enough, And also the laws and regulations are well understood and practiced by the majority. So in some way, I think of this industry as you can think of this industry as the airplane manufacturing industry, which today is extremely safe and well regulated. So from the outset, my premise for this talk is that AI is a toolbox containing various technologies and techniques that help to augment human intelligence. And I would just reiterate, these are tools, these are instruments to help augment human intelligence. And the need for AI. You see, we humans, we make a lot of mistakes and errors that stem from our limited capacity to make good decisions fast. And there is probably no need to prove this statement, but I'll bring a few examples from my own life that many will identify with their own example. So in 1993, I just started working as it was my second job right after college. And it was my first day at work. And I started working as a driver. And it was a snowy December. And on that very first day, I had a terrible accident. And this is, the two cars that were involved, they were damaged beyond repair, but nobody died, alhamdulillah. Of course, there was some damage. But the point here is that we do make errors as human beings, and technologies today, they help to avoid some of these human errors. And so let's say if you see this picture here as a Uber car, like self-driving car, this kind of cars, the self-driving, the technology that is being used there, it becomes safer and safer. If we compare it with human drivers, we, according to latest figures, I think we make about more than 1 million accidents in a year. I think by with the latest numbers from the UN, it was 1.3 million accidents per year, and this is a lot actually. That's too much, and it is human error. And these technologies like artificial intelligence enabled technologies, they can help us in avoiding human error in transportation. And there are many other examples you can cite on why we need advanced technologies. And in medicine, for example, I would say that today we have technologies that help in identifying cancer risk, and that help doctors make better decisions. And I would in my own family, we had my father was diagnosed with cancer, and before that he had surgery on the stomach, and after that he had cancer on in that area, esophageal cancer, and he passed away due to that. And if the doctors had this technology, the technology to help either to find this, to spot that the cancer early on, or to build a or to offer some the treatment, some specific individualized treatment that maybe he would have been alive today. And so I think many millions of people will really benefit from these technologies, inshallah. And so we can state a lot of other examples, and but the main thing we have to understand is that we do, as humans, we do make a lot of errors, and we need to protect ourselves from ourselves. And also, given the levels of our technological and industrial advancement, we need better technology to protect the environment as well. And since the laws and regulations always lag behind, it is up to manufacturers to invest in better technologies that reduce pollution and reduce the damage to the environment. And so we need the artificial intelligence to help protect the environment from human error. And finally, since artificial intelligence moves towards greater AI-based machine coding that is done without human intervention, there is already the growing need to check how machines create their own algorithms. And so to ensure that we understand what AI-enabled machine is doing, we need better tools to monitor and correct AI errors or biases. And so these are the reasons why we need AI. So the main contention here is that we make errors, we have biases, and we need to protect ourselves, our fellow human beings. We need to protect the environment, and also to check the artificial intelligence based technologies from its own errors. And here are some facts about the human beings as from an Islamic perspective. We are created perfectly, في أحسن تقويم. And we and other creatures are not only physical, but we also spiritual and emotional entities. And we as humans, we have not only logical intelligence, aql, but also we have spiritual intelligence and emotional intelligence. And so we have conscious and subconscious mind, and whereby the subconscious mind is the collection of all prior experience. And we have several gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will not be available to technologies. And we have these gifts as fitra, or the natural disposition, the conscience, or the wijdan, something this is inspired in us. We have conscience, and we have reason, we have heart and the inner heart. So we have reason, which is aql, and we use it to understand. The heart and the loop are the inner. This is where, according to the Quran, this is where the real understanding happens. And this is not it's not the brain that makes us understand, but it is the heart here. We have the free will, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ayat, or the revelation, and also the signs in nature and within ourselves. And so all of these, they give us the opportunity, or they shape the moral conduct, they shape our ethical behavior. And so this is who we are, and how do we make sense of it? How do we compare it to machines? And can we really compare it? And is there a possibility of having a artificial general intelligence, given the fact that we have given by Allah, by our Creator, all these gifts? And we cannot be, except for the reason, we cannot create even this heart or qalb, or loop, the inner heart. And so some assumptions about the artificial intelligence. Of course, it is artificial. It is it's not natural, and we cannot mimic. It cannot mimic humans 100%. Even if we talk about general artificial general intelligence, which, according to some experts, it is. Some say it is just maybe a few years away, or maybe a few dozens of years away, and some say that it is maybe hundreds of years away. And so today it is more about narrow artificial intelligence, and it is basically it's a tool programmed to do one or maybe more tasks. And it is dependent on programmers, algorithms, and computers. Its nature is formal logic. It cannot contain spiritual and emotional intelligence. It likely to contain biases, but the models that are used for to build the AI tools, they can be trained to identify and eliminate these biases. And this AI, they should help to augment human intelligence, not to replace it. Here the meaning here is that this technologies, any technology is there to help us as a tool, as an instrument, to help us in our daily life, in our tasks, whatever we do. So it is there to help us, not to replace us. And AIs, they can be extremely helpful or extremely dangerous. And I think yesterday you might have covered some of these benefits and dangers. And artificial general intelligence to replace humans, in my opinion, is not possible due to lack of self-awareness and consciousness. And so the nature and effects of the artificial intelligence-based technology is that today it is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. It is in our phones, in our computers, now in our cars, in a lot of manufacturing. So it is becoming more and more available, and it is growing. And of course, there is a need for that. And so it is everywhere, and it is still at an infant stage. It lives on data, so it is hungry for data, and it growing really, really fast. And it also it is replacing humans in decision making. And it also is reducing the political participation in humans. And I think we may have heard, you may have heard about the how Facebook is able to interfere in political decisions of people. And also there is a trade-off problem. Higher automation can lead to less skills, which are moral and physical. So we can say that one of the things that one of the results of artificial intelligence is kind of de-skilling. So, for example, if you can imagine yourself as a let's say you can imagine a self-driving car. And you have a self-driving car, and it drives you. You let it drive itself most of the time, and after a while, you may lose the ability to drive well. And so the advanced system may just decide not to let you drive because you forgot how to drive well, and unless you take a test. A driving test again, maybe the system will not let you drive again. And so, and most importantly, artificial intelligence amplifies and accelerates everything, including biases. So it amplifies the human decision making. It accelerates the decision making. So whatever the political participation, anything that we do in our lives, it either augments, it amplifies, it makes things faster. And then to certain extent, of course, it is also designed to make things better, and so that the decisions are error-free. And but again, the nature of artificial intelligence-based technology is that it is everywhere, and it does affect us in terms of our skills and our abilities. And so there are ethical issues in artificial intelligence at the user level and at development level. So as an ordinary users, we are wired to seek ease and comfort. And so our dependence stems from our psychological trait through a chemical reward system, which is dopamine and serotonin. So this is a biological kind of a biological trait. And for programmers, the human coding is increasingly replaced by machine coding, and growing data and new algorithms make this machine coding, self-coding it makes it possible. And so at user level, we see that we have we like to be in this comfort zone, and the advanced technologies creates this feeling of comfort about the availability of timely information and better decision making. So we have our handphones and our smartphones with us. We have all the technologies next to us most of the time, especially in academia today. And we do rely on them more and more for even to find the prayer times and get news and communicate with our partners and with our friends and family. So this creates the feeling of comfort of that we have the technology and we feel comfortable. But when suddenly we lose access to these technologies, then we become really uneasy. And I think for the young generation today, it is even more difficult to imagine life without technologies, without their gadgets. And so we kind of have this dependence on gadgets, and there are many, and there are some people among us who are really addicted to their gadgets. And according to some research, there is about 1%, and even higher, up to 8% of users are really dependent. They are addicted to their gadgets. And also there is the fact that the specializations, they move away from humans to technologies. And this is the nature of technologies, that they always help us to specialize. And some skills, some specializations, they die out, they disappear, and we come up with new specializations, new professions. And we build new technologies, instruments, and tools. And gradually, these tools, they replace the need for by automation, for example. They reduce the need for human intervention. And now these specializations, some specializations that we have today, even some experts say that the consultant, the professions of consultancy and lawyers and accountants, they can all be replaced. And of course, anything that is like manual work, it can all be replaced by machines. And so what it leads to is, as I said, this scaling. So we lose some professional, social, and communication skills, and this is important. Of course, there are people who argue that it's not that it is not that bad, but we do see that the reliance, too much reliance and dependence on gadgets leads some people to social isolation, and it damages our communication skills, and even to the extent that the gaming industry, let's say the computer gaming industry, it has so many gamers worldwide who are really spending their hours and hours every day playing games. And increasingly, I mean, these games, they are artificial intelligence based games. And at the development level, there are problems with purely engineering based solutions. And are engineers alone capable to spot ethical issues? So, of course, there are biases that can creep into algorithms. And is it enough for the engineers, or can engineers really spot those ethical issues? And do they need help from, let's say, from some methodology or from other people who are non-engineers? And also the commercial first to market approach, the capitalist, the first to market approach in industries, it may result in hidden ethical problems. So let's say the fact of competition, it creates the constraints on engineers. So you have to come up with solutions very quickly, so that your company can sell these solutions, can sell the software, can sell the hardware, and so it creates an ethical problem. And so as engineers, you'll be faced with this constraint, the problem of competition. And now, of course, we have more and more companies, and everywhere in the world, the number of software companies and hardware companies and companies that are focused or that are doing AI kind of development, they are increasing by day. And so the competition is only going to grow. And so the engineers are going to face more and more ethical problems because of that. And lack of awareness about biases and how they affect our lives. So this is the psychologists, they've managed to identify dozens and dozens of biases, and it is sometimes we don't need them, we don't know them, but as humans we have this like mental shortcuts, or the heuristics to deal with complexity. And by using this shortcuts, we commit a lot of errors and mistakes. And so this is I think this is the reason why biases occur. And it is there is a necessity for engineers to understand where the biases come from, and how to tackle them, and how to identify those biases, and how to deal with them. And also, this is, of course, the biases from the humans, and biases from machines as well. And sources of bias in artificial intelligence is basically it is the data, the constraints around data, and the algorithmic principles. So when it comes to data, we can see that there might be incomplete data set. So whenever we if there is a model trained like a machine learning model that has a data set, so and the solution is based on that data set, maybe it is incomplete, and it may create some bias or errors in decision making. And so there is a bias in choosing and labeling data. And also there are there may be some hidden variables and correlations that you may not be, or the engineers may not be aware of. And so it creates a constraint, it creates a constraint around data. And algorithmic principles, so maybe there are there may be some lack of accuracy. And when we code, when we do the modeling, and the data may be changing, and since the incomplete data set, as I mentioned, then the data may be changing, and the complex neural networks algorithms may not be checked by humans. So there is this understanding that the tendency today that the algorithms are made by the machine themselves. So there is a need for artificial intelligence to check the code, to check the programming. And so the biases in humans and in artificial intelligence are a reflection of our worldview and experience. And the revelation is there to correct them. And there are many cognitive errors that we make due to lack of deep thinking and contemplation. And we want things really fast and easy, and so we have the nafs, and so we have these shortcuts, we have this heuristics that help us to make quick decisions, and of course these mental shortcuts are often helpful, but we also have the tendency to make errors based on these heuristics. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets and sent revelations in order to correct our thinking. And this is very important for us to understand where does and how, what are the purposes of thinking, because anything we do is a process, is the cognitive process that we need to be aware of. Where does it come from? Where does it lead? And why we can make some errors. We can make some errors in thinking. And so from the Quranic perspective, we see that the purposes of thinking in the Quran are to understand the signs of Allah in natural world and also within ourselves. Also to worship Allah alone and do it correctly. To understand the need for prophets and to follow them. To reform the self, to reform the society, and to reform the environment, and to learn from the past and not to repeat the mistakes, to order what is good and forbid what is evil, to invite with wisdom and beautiful preaching, to understand the laws of Allah in nature and in society, to regulate interactions or transactions between people, and also between people and the natural world, and to attain success in this life and in the hereafter. So these are some of the purposes of thinking in the Quran. And where does the thinking take place? If we take the idea of logical positivism and the scientific scientific approach to this, then thinking actually takes place in the brain, And if by understanding how the brain works, then we can build these neural networks. We can mimic the brain, and so we can we can build the artificial intelligence effectively and efficiently. And so the expectation is that this by mimicking the human beings, by mimicking the brain, it is possible to build even the artificial general intelligence. But does it really take place in the brain only? So in the Quran, there are this is where the thinking takes place. According to the Quran, it's in qalb, the understanding really. Understanding takes place in the Quran, or in the fuad or sadr or lub. And so qalb is literally something that turns and flips and changing its nature. It also refers to the physical heart. It signifies the best or the purest part of something. And it also refers to the mind, the seat of intelligence or understanding. And also there is another synonym for this, is the fuad. This is more about the emotional heart, or burning, pulsating, or exciting heart. And this is the heart that is able to understand God. And there is another word that is used in the Quran, which is sadr. And that this is the place that really refers to the breast or chest or the bosom. And it also denotes the heart and mind. And it is also the outer layer of heart. And it is said that this is the place where shaitan can whisper, and it also the place of ego. And even deeper, there is lub. And you can read in the Quran, ulul albab. So lub, it literally means the innermost core of something. So it denotes a pure intellect free from blemishes or suspicion. This is the highest level of intellect, and it is able to recognize the signs of Allah and understand, and it is able to understand the truth. So knowing this, can we really, knowing this from the Quran, can we really think that by mimicking the brain, by mimicking the neural networks, we can build a machine that can replace human beings? Most probably not. So from there, we should understand and look at technologies as augmenting, as helping us, or augmenting human intelligence. And so why Maqasid-based ethics, and how to understand what we mean by it? Since ethics is related to action and distinguishing right from wrong, it is important to know the foundation of ethics. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the speakers yesterday mentioned about the logical positivists and their sheer denial of any value system that is not based on science. So if we base our ethical system on vague and ever-changing value system, which is science, we end up discounting the original nature of man. And in order to understand the true nature of human beings, science can only provide a partial answer. And so the value system based on such partial understanding of nature is extremely deficient. And that value system resulted in colonialism. It resulted in the destructive 2 world wars of the last century. It resulted in numerous economic, financial, and political crises. And so our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has given us the revelation and sent prophets in order to explain the purpose of our lives, the purpose of creation, and the purpose of life itself. And so ethics in Islam is based on divine objectives of life, which is to understand and worship Allah, take care of this earth, and reform human beings to be better in order to achieve hayat al-tayyiba, or the good life. And that Hayat al-Taiba is not only the good life, not only for human beings, but for all creatures on this planet, animate and inanimate. And so it is extremely important to ask the why question. And the Islamic civilization was built on the idea of Tawheed and the knowledge, and the knowledge of its application to life. And really, our ancestors, they were obsessed with the idea of knowledge, and the whole Islamic civilization was built on Tawheed and the concept of ilm. If you refer to Franz Rosenthal, the book of the Knowledge Triumphant, I think he brings dozens, I think 12, at least 12 categories, and in each category he brings dozens of definitions that Muslims used for to define ilm. And so the obsession with knowledge was really huge, and it really affected all parts of life. And so, and this was based on the multidimensional study of the objectives of revelation. So by asking the why question, we look at the different dimensions of revelation. And so there is in our the Maqasid Institute, Sheikh Jasser Ouda and other colleagues, we there is a specific methodology was developed for identifying the objective concepts, values, and universal laws, proofs, and commands. And this methodology really helps in understanding the revelation better, and this in turn it would help to develop ethics. And ethics is the action. This is the what and how, what to do in the world, and this is based on the answer to the question of why, which is the purposeful nature of revelation. And so the Maqasid methodology, I think, yeah, yesterday you've Sheikh Jasser Ouda, he showed, he gave an explanation of what Maqasid methodology is. So it is this methodology is based on the revelation as primary guidance for thought and action. And there is also the realization of the connectivity and emergence of ideas and concepts and universal laws of from the revelation. So what we do is that we before we embark on a study, and this is specifically for research, and this can also be adapted to the action as well, not only to academic research but also to action. So we define the purpose by asking the question of why. So we do the reflection or the cycles of reflection, or the thinking, reading the Quran and thinking about what we read. So the reflective reading of the Quran. Then building a conceptual framework, analyzing existing literature, and forming theories and ideas. And I think it is also possible to adopt this to apply to, let's say, as programmers, or in any field of work that is not academic. I think the primary thing is to define our purpose, define who we are, define what is the purpose of our action, of our work in relation to the Quran, and read the Quran in order to find guidance for our further action. And we look at different things, and here is that part of that methodology that Sheikh Jasser talked about yesterday. So we define the purpose. We look at we read the Quran in order to build a framework, and we formulate our understanding of the revelation in regards to that purpose or the action or whatever we do in life. And so there are ways, I mean, by in the composite framework that we talk about is we look at the different elements here as concepts and objectives and other elements. So all of this, we can, by reading the Quran, we can identify these elements, and from this we see that they are all interconnected, and from this interconnectedness, a new understanding may emerge, or new ideas will emerge, which we can use into later on in whether in our academic life we come up with theories, with hypotheses. We built some we use it for our theoretical work, but we can also use it for applied work as well. And so let's say this is just a small example from the book that this is Sheikh Jasser's book, the Re-envisioning Islamic Scholarship. And so by thinking about about Allah, about the nature of Allah, we look at the concepts. These are the asma or the names of Allah, and they are connected to objectives of let's say justice and whole and heedfulness and thankfulness, and they're also connected to commands like forbidding things, or some prohibitions and some commands, and and some other things like the some of the universal laws. And this is from here we can some new understanding can emerge. So the idea here is the interconnectedness, the connectivity of all these elements, and the emergence of new ideas. And so why should an engineer care about philosophy or philosophical questions of why, and care about the purposefulness? Because anything that we do is not value free, and it can either lead to goodness or to evil. And so really asking the really pertinent, really important and significant questions of our purpose in life is I think it really goes a long way in helping to build a good and useful and beneficial artificial intelligence based technologies. And so the philosophical underpinning, or the ideas from the revelation, some philosophical questions in order to find the purposefulness of our lives, and also the applied ethics. The applied ethics can be derived from philosophical, from some questions that we can develop using using philosophy, or the referring to revelation for guidance. And so the possible solutions, of course, we call people to read the Quran, daily reading of the Quran, and reflect on it. Building or to be part of a network of scholars and practitioners studying the revelation and applying its value system. And here I would like to mention that also Sheikh Jasser mentioned yesterday that at Maqasid Institute we have different research groups. And one of those research groups is the research group on artificial intelligence. And we invite scholars and practitioners to contribute and to join our network. And in order for us that we collectively we can cooperate, we can collaborate on this on these ideas, on this on coming up with new understanding and maybe building some guidance, some guidance from the Maqasid perspective, from the Islamic, from the Quranic perspective. And so anyone who is in the audience who is interested to join our network, so please you can contact me. I'm going to give my contact email and telephone number. And this network of scholars and practitioners, we have something which is called Maqasid Research Network, but also Maqasid Action Network. And these networks, these are not on the one hand, we focus on research, but also we want to focus on action, on applied research. And we use the revelation in order to find guidance for application and for theoretical work. Another possible solution for problems related to ethics and artificial intelligence is through education by design and implement transdisciplinary curricula from all the way from school to higher education institutions, and also make the philosophy and ethics to reintroduce these disciplines in schools and in higher education institutions. And of course, the professional norms and standards, they are forthcoming. I mean, I think just like in many other professions, these norms and standards, they will appear. I mean, they will be developed, and I think they are being developed by various organizations in Europe and throughout the world. And so there will be professional norms and standards, and I think we should be part of that discussion. And we provide our understanding from the Maqasidi or from the Quranic and Islamic perspective. And so these are some of the things that I have to say about this. But of course, the topic is huge, and I hope, inshallah, some of the ideas that are developed here during this conference, they can be really helpful and applied to develop ethical framework for artificial intelligence. And thank you very much for inviting me. And anyone can, if you'd like to contact me, here I am. This is my email and the mobile number. So thank you very much again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for the talk, Dr. Ildus. We're now going to start a question answer session.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Ildus.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you for your presentation, and it was wonderful listening to you and talking about those things. I was just thinking about a few things as you were talking about, a Maqasidic approach to AI, and having listened to Dr. Ildus talk yesterday about, seeing the things, placing things in the right context. So for instance, if let's say, because in the very beginning, when you were talking about the apparently beneficial uses of AI, let's say for driverless cars, right, or cancer treatment, how do we address the fact that the very instantiation of cancer and the increase in people suffering from the disease is actually the result of certain very preventable causes, right? So we know that people who work in certain industries, who are exposed to certain things, are more prone to developing this. And there's like a lot of data that's available on, the possible causes, and which is pretty much preventable, only that we don't have the will to do that, right? Now, having that being the case, how do we look at the justification of using whatever possible technologies or treatments, while at the same time addressing the very roots or the very causes? Because look, if we look that way, I mean, why do we need, let's say, certain AI applications, right? Once the disease is there. But is it better to have the disease first and then think of what's beneficial for humans? Or is it more beneficial? Because again, the Maqasid approach allows us to look at things in their wholeness. And likewise, for if you're talking about the driverless cars, now, there's a whole movement in the world that is talking about localization, right? Where we have less and less dependence on cars, because again, if we have autonomous cars, it might address, let's say, it might prevent accidents, although I'll come back to it in a while. But again, the other problems that the transportation system is causing to the human and the natural environment, that would still be the same. Right? And when there's already a growing tendency of people who are talking about localization, where we don't need to have that many cars in the first place, and we have workplace and everything that's walkable, and so on and so forth, and we have people who are developing and inhabiting such communities, right? So when I think about these things, I think when we are posing these questions, the very positing of those questions first need to be placed in that wider, bigger context. And I think Maqasid approach allows for that, unlike other approaches that are more limited. And sorry, there's this third point, which is if you're talking about drivers, right, and human errors causing accidents, which is fine, and we can perhaps prevent that, although that's again also an if, right? Because there's also a great concern, and I think we had that one accident by one of the Tesla cars last year, if I remember correctly. But even let's say, for the sake of argument, hypothetically speaking, they don't cause any accidents, and we are really able to sort of control that. But what about the fact that when we train human beings as drivers to have patience, more self-control, right, and more empathy for people they might hurt or cause injury to by their, let's say, impatience or recklessness, we are not only preventing accidents or deaths by car accidents, but also improving the moral condition of the society. So let's say this driver who's really impatient, right? And we replace an autonomous car in place of that driver, but the same driver next day kills someone out of that rage or hurts someone out of that rage. Now, then should we have an AI solution for that as well? I mean, so these are the sort of paradoxes that I often see when we are talking about these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, this is the ideas here is definitely when we talk about these issues, we can talk either from the point of view of the ideals that we want the humanity to go towards, of using the holistic approach, the Maqasidi holistic approach, the ideals. But also we have to deal with the reality, and the reality, as I mentioned, we make a lot of errors as human beings. On the one hand, we need to enable, we are calling people to really slow down and go and try to reflect, try to read the Quran, and read the Quran and think, reflect more, and this is really difficult. And people are using all sorts of heuristics and shortcuts in order to do something faster and achieve whatever they want to achieve in a more efficient way. So the efficiency in one of those, it is one of those things that can either be a boon or bane. And you know, but the reality, I mean, we have to deal with the reality. Not we don't forget about the ideal way that we want people, human beings, to be better, to live in a good environment, not to have diseases in the first place. I mean, like cancer. These are all avoidable, and the many the accidents, for example, they are avoidable. But the reality is that we have the human beings. We have the tendency to make those mistakes, and I think technologies today they are useful. They're useful in dealing with these human errors, human mistakes. And this is the dichotomy. I think we as human beings collectively, I think we need to find a middle ground, maybe, or at least we have the ideal that we want to strive towards, but we deal with reality and apply whatever good we can come up with. We apply it on the ground and try to solve the real daily issues, like in medicine, in transportation, and in manufacturing, and so on.
Thank you for that, Dr. Ildus. I have
Okay.
one more question. So with respect to creating a new paradigm to understand Quran and Sunnah, there's also an issue that what would happen to the like traditional perspective with respect to interpreting Quran and Sunnah. So there's also a slight kind of, you can say, a concern with respect to that maybe this new interpretation or maybe this 21st century interpretation would kind of be different from what has been with respect to the traditions. So how do we reconcile the traditional texts and the new paradigms that we are trying to make to understand this situation that we are currently in?
Well, of course, there is the traditional understanding. I think it is the tradition is a long tradition. It has hundreds of years of in the Islamic in the Quranic studies, in fiqh, in usul al-fiqh, in the hadith studies, and in usul al-din studies. But the Maqasid Institute, we're not trying to build a new madhab or something. We are calling people to come back to the Quran, study the Quran for ourselves, and even referring to the to traditional sources. But one thing we should not forget is that when we say traditional sources, traditional scholars, those scholars, let's say from 1,000 years ago, they wrote for their own society, for their own context. And this context, we have to really produce new knowledge for the context that we are in now today. And of course, we do not forget, we should study the traditional knowledge, definitely. But we also have to realize the context, our today's context. And so we can have like a historical approach, but to deal with the reality that today, let's say in medicine, in manufacturing, in economics and business, by using sources from 1,000 years ago, we can get some guidance, but to to build a framework for understanding and application. I think we need to build new knowledge in that for today, and not only we have to use our own, I think, understand today's understanding and do it collaboratively, of course.
Thank you, Dr. Ildus. Sorry to cut you off. So we're basically short on time.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
the
much.
insights.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.